Welcome to Evangeli-CRINGE, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American evangelical church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. Remember, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast platforms, let us invite you to join the live interactive recording most Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Evangeli-CRINGE YouTube channel. Now to this episode of Evangelical-ish. And happy Wednesday, everyone. Glad to be with you. I am Paul.
And I'm April.
Glad to be with you tonight, April. And I intentionally opened my blind of my office tonight just to show how beautiful and bright it is outside right now on the West Coast, because I am all in on daylight savings time. I think we should be on daylight savings time forever and never, ever, ever, ever go back to standard time again.
Well, as an Eastern time person, it's dark here, and I feel a little salty about the fact that you still have some sun. So I just want to stay on one time. I'm tired of the back and forth.
So you're not a standard or savings time. You just
I want us to pick a time and stick with it, because the back and forth twice a year, it throws my kids' sleep schedules off. It throws my sleep schedule off now. And I've learned, now that I'm getting a little older, that my sleep schedule is very important, apparently. And if I get thrown off, I get cranky.
I always had heard what I thought was an urban legend, that more heart attacks happen around the change of the time. But I actually have found there's actual data that it's true, that it actually does upset people's sleep and life and stuff, and it can lead to those types of things. But I want the sun in the evening, not in the morning. I don't mind getting up in the dark, but coming home, having sunlight,
I agree with
getting
that.
to do golf or something like that, or hang out with your kids outside, give me the sunlight in the evening.
I would agree, but I don't want to change anymore. I would rather have darkness than lose sleep again. Although falling back is good. I do like falling back.
You get that extra hour back,
but you really pay for it. It's like paying it forward in the spring.
And remember when you used to have to like change your clocks and all that stuff, and now the phone does it for you.
No, but you still have to do it on like your oven and your microwave. It's like a whole thing in your car.
It's a pain in the ass. So we voted in California to stay on permanent daylight savings time, but it has to be approved by Congress before you can do it as a state. So
see, that's going to get confusing, because Kentucky has a bill on the ballot to either, I think, just to get rid of daylight savings, so you're on the same time the whole year. But if like all these states start doing different things and you have time zones, that's going to be so confusing. Like, wait, is this state daylight savings or not daylight savings? And there's Central Time and I'm Eastern Time. Like the math, I get so confused every year trying to figure out, wait, what time is it actually? And then it literally just like my brain gets a little rainbow circle of death of like, I'm just stuck. I can't go any further.
Well, we're out here, Hawaii and Arizona do not switch. I'm not sure which one they're on, but they don't switch. And so for part of the year, Hawaii is a 3-hour difference, and for part of the year, it's a 2-hour difference than California.
That's too much to keep track of. Okay, now that we have spent 4 minutes talking about daylight savings time, which is not a topic that we had planned to talk about.
It's a good topic, though.
Yeah, I would like to housekeeping. Oh, we got 2 more reviews. Thank you to those people that are giving reviews. I guess like
we're up to 3 now.
I need to say their names. At some point I'll find their names and I'll say their names before the show is over. Okay. Which their names are just screenshots, that or screen names. But yeah, so thanks for leaving us Apple reviews and Spotify, rate us,
give us a review,
all the things. But without further ado, I really want to get to our guest tonight, because I adore this man. He is an author, and he has a new children's book coming out. Or is it out? It's coming out soon if it's not out already. But you know what? He can tell us. Please welcome Matthew Paul Turner. Oh. Where did he go? That's the book. Come back, Matthew. There you are.
Matthew. Hello. I kind of want. I was like really wanting to speak into the daylight savings.
Oh, okay. All right.
Please. I want to hear your okay, what do you think about daylight savings? We should have had you on. I didn't know we were going to talk about that. It just kind of happened.
Well, you were just saying, like, when you have kids, it really messes up the schedule for them. And do you know, like, I don't know if this is like, I want you all to Google this before you like put it on the internet, but I have heard there was an article that came out that more car accidents happen on the day after we spring forward than any other day.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's that there was a study done. Yeah, because people are tired, and it's not like people more, it's just that it's more fender benders or whatever. And so, but I also think that Indiana is another state that doesn't change.
Correct. Indiana does not change.
I don't think it switches times.
Oh, that's confusing because chances are Caitlin Clark's going to get recruited to the WNBA team in Indianapolis, and I just feel like that's going to be confusing if we drive, which is like 3 hours away. So we're going to drive up there to see the games. I'm going to have to figure out, is their daylight savings match our daylight savings to know when this game starts?
Yeah.
By the way, a quick irony, as I've now told you how much I love the sun in the evening, it's blinding me right now. So I'm going to have to step up and close my blind. So I'll be right back.
Do we just talk amongst ourselves?
Yeah, we can talk amongst ourselves. I can edit this out later, or maybe you say something that just wows me.
Is the book out?
Yes.
When does your book come out?
The book came out yesterday. So
yesterday, I knew it was soon.
It's officially out. It is. I feel like I have been talking about it for like forever, and so I am on the day, and by the time it comes out, I'm ready to like talk about something else.
Yeah, you're like daylight savings time, please. I have an opinion.
It's so true. But anyway, so yeah, it is out in stores.
And it is called You Will Always Belong.
You Will Always Belong. It's a book about connecting to ourselves and connecting and how being connected to ourselves is a connecting point for us to have togetherness in various ways with other people. So
one thing that I love so much about your children's books and the fact that you have children's books is, especially as a mom with younger kids, like I was deconstructing like in their like toddler little years, and we were gifted at my baby showers lots of Christian books, which are fine, and there's nothing like super problematic other than like a white Jesus, but nothing pronouns. Right.
Like the pronouns for God are the ones are some of the most disturbing things when you're reading in the middle, because so
it's like God the Father, and and it's very like boys can be godly men and ladies be like lady. It's it's very gendered, and there's just a lot of more traditional viewpoints of it. But as someone who wants to teach my kids to live with empathy and kindness for all people, including all genders, and for like my daughters to be able to see themselves in God and to see that God also has a feminine side. I was like so excited when I found out. Someone told me about is it What Is God Like that you did with Rachel Held Evans?
Yeah.
That one I loved, because I also my like family that would come over to watch my kids who may not have been like progressive yet would like see it and be like, oh, a Christian book, I'm going to read this to my daughters. And then they'd be reading and been like, well,
we surprise them in the middle, right?
Your book actually caused some drama. That one did, at the Methodist church that my daughter was going to preschool, because the director was progressive and she read that book to the children in kids' church. And a couple of the kids were like, God's a boy. And then went and told their parents, and their parents were like, that's it, we're not going there anymore.
Oh, I'm sure. Like it's wild. Like in my books that I write, I avoid pronouns for God. Like I feel like pronouns get in the way of communicating love, and it kind of just closes things off sometimes. Okay. And Rachel, of course we lost, when Rachel died, I was in the emergency room with her and her, you know, her then husband. And he was like, you know, Rachel just handed in to her agent, you know, a couple children's books ideas. And at that point he was like, I'm sure she's going to reach out to you and, you know, and get your, you know, your thoughts on whatever. And so 3 or 4 months after Rachel had passed, you know, Dan called me up and asked if I'd, you know, finish them. And y'all, like, it was like a holy experience. Like I don't talk about like Holy Ghost stuff all that often, but I swear writing that book, because you know, and we'll get to, like, we're going to talk about my story later, but it was literally right in the middle of all of the stuff that was going on in my story. But writing Rachel's book, or finishing Rachel's book, was just this incredible gift of grief and healing. And it, like, at times when I felt like I was channeling her, like, I mean, it just was powerful. And you know, like, I tried, my goal was to keep for me to finish it, because she had only written 200 words and it's now 1,000 words. But I wanted it to feel exactly how she had written. And I swear, if I read the few words that she wrote, you would be like, oh wow, like that's basically that's her book. And so, like, it was I mean, Rachel had used the pronouns, and so we kept them. So.
Oh wow. A little bit of a fanboy question. I mean, I'm a big fan of Rachel Held Evans, and sorry we lost her.
So am I.
Tell me she was a great person to be around, because I've met disappointing people that I admired from afar before.
She was the very best kind of person to have around. I could spend this whole podcast talking about Rachel. Like Rachel was the one thing that I loved about Rachel is that if all of us who were close to her, we could all point to a time when Rachel reached out to us via email and just asked how we were doing. What was like, because we were either going through something, hey, I know that you're going through something like this. And I mean, friend after friend after friend can talk about that 1 or 2 times when Rachel just reached out at a really perfect moment. And she didn't do it. It wasn't a big social media thing. It was just her being her in the quiet of her life. And like, Rachel was she was kind. Like, yeah, like, I could talk all day long about how awesome she was.
If anybody has deconstructed their beliefs and not read Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans, you have got to read that book. It's one of the most impactful books I've read in this journey.
Yeah, and we have at least one more book, children's book, that I have finished, and it's in the illustration point.
Oh, that's so exciting!
And it's, oddly enough, it's called What is the Bible? So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you are an answer to prayer for many deconstructive or just like slightly more progressive Christian parents who like want to teach their kids about God and you know, spiritual things, but without all the dogma.
Do we still have answers to prayers? Does that still work?
No answer is an answer, Paul.
Oh my gosh, this is gaslighting 101.
So what do we do with pronouns for God now? Where are you on pronouns for God?
You know what? Well, like, in Rachel's book, we used he, she, and they. Honestly, like, they is probably the most accurate from a theology standpoint. You know, there was one time I was in I was in Egypt on a trip with, okay, this is going to sound really weird, but I'm just going to say it, okay? So just to forgive me for this. I was on a trip for 40 days with Morgan Freeman and National Geographic, and I was the photographer and a writer. And so I got to hang out hung out with Morgan Freeman. Like that, my job was to interview him on a regular basis because he was, hosting or doing the documentary Story of God. We were in Egypt. I was talking to an Egyptianologist, and I asked her the question, so can we talk about Moses? And she said, which one? Which I just fell in love with her after that. Okay. So, and then she went on to explain that, for the most part, like most scholars believe that Moses is a conglomerate character. Like it's a character that is made up of many different stories, and we just named him one person. Then I made reference to monotheism, and she was like, please tell me what faith you think is monotheistic. And I said Christianity. She was like, Christianity is not monotheistic. It is, you've got God the Father, you've got God the Son, and you've got God the Holy Spirit. That is polytheism, Matthew. Like, and I mean, my mind was blown because I just had never even I'd never experienced that way.
But it's three in one.
Yeah,
Godhead.
But
it's a mystery.
It's not. Okay.
God's ways are not our ways. Don't think about it. Don't go behind the curtain.
God. Did you guys ever get the egg explanation? The one where they yeah. Anyway, so when
ours was the steam, ice, water. All the same thing, but three forms.
Yeah. I was taught, look at yourself. You are body, but you're not just the body. You're also your mind. Yeah. And you're your soul.
Yeah.
3 in 1.
That's true. Oh God. Now I'm getting triggered. No. But anyway, so
I know the feeling.
I remember in that process of thinking about this book for Rachel and how we were using all these pronouns and how they was the most accurate idea that we could use to explain God and talk about God. And I just, even God uses, or even in scripture, there are many times where God will refer to themselves as like we, like he, and have this like plural idea. And so I don't know. I just think that
let us make man in our image.
Right. And it's like, and it's just, it's unreal and wild when you bring this up, because what I was getting at is the reviews for that book. You brought up how it was a big controversy in your church or in that church. The reviews, I mean, people just go nuts about the pronouns. And I'm like, do you think God has a penis? Like, think about that. Do you think God stands at a urinal? And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't it's one thing for them to feel like want to be conservative in their theology or whatever. But if they're going to really be dogmatic about God being a man, I can't comprehend it.
Like they have that argument if they're talking about Jesus.
Sure.
Because Jesus was a man who walked on this earth. Use he him the crap out of him,
Yeah.
God.
I gave the book The Shack. If you've ever read The Shack, I gave that to my mom to read, and I asked her a little while later, years and years ago, did you read that book, Mom? And if you've ever read the book, God is a black woman in the book. God appears as a black woman. And I asked my mom, did you read that book? And she's like, no, God is a black woman. No, I'm not reading that book. And I'm like, so what does God look like? Is God a white man? Is that what you're telling me? And you can't really answer that. But at the end of the day, don't we in the American church really believe God has to be a white man?
Well, it's almost as if we have we certainly believe that Jesus is a white man. And I think that we have God is just this thing out here. And we interact with Jesus and we just call Jesus all the things. And so I just think that some people cannot separate the idea at all. So I don't know. Anyway, but that book does. I absolutely loved writing that book, and it has it has been wild to see how people just go off on the theology of a children's book.
Yeah,
I think too, when you, sorry to interrupt, April, but my look at this thing is like, I do think there is something divine out there. I don't believe in God as a being necessarily, as a person. But I do believe there's divine love and goodness, and we can connect with it and interact with it. And I probably think of something, it's the whole of all of us. But, nonetheless, why can't God be something other than a white man? Or at very least, our view of God was written by Bedouin farmers in a desert 6,000 years ago. And all they knew was patriarchy or monarchy. And so, of course, God to them would have been a king or a father. But couldn't we be a little more evolved now and say, well, that was what, of course, that's what they would say back then, but that doesn't have to be our view today.
I mean, if we are able to answer that question, Paul, we'd have it all figured out. Because literally, like, that is, I mean, when you go back that far back, like, that is, it kind of started it all. Like, I mean, so I hear you. It's wild.
Well, I think they would totally gaslight you though. And if a conservative was listening to this, hello, if you are, they'd be like, we don't believe God is white. We don't believe Jesus is white. Like, because I feel like they've been called out on it enough, and they'd be like, you're so stupid. Who believes that?
Yeah.
But literally look at any of the European pictures of Jesus, and the fact that whether or not that Jesus was literally a brown man, you're still perpetuating a white supremacist Christianity.
Oh, well, it's almost, though, I think honestly, it's become such an American-centric concept of Jesus. It's really like, we think, I mean, the things that America has done to Jesus is quite, it's appalling. The very last book that I wrote for adults was called Our Great Big American God, a short history to our ever-growing deity. I mean, it sold shit. Okay, like, it didn't do well, but I was so proud of that book because I did so much research. But the idea that, how much change happened to God after God, colonized America, like, it's uncanny. And some of that happened only an hour away from where you live now, April, in Cane Ridge. If you ever want to study an interesting moment in American history, it's the Cane Ridge revival.
Okay.
And it is the first time that it is talked about where speaking in tongues became a thing, where there are diaries of people who were there that claim that people were, like, literally struck down by God, dead, and been brought back to life. Wow. Like, it is a wild, and so all of these people, and it became huge. It went on for months, and at the end of it, all these people who were Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, they all went back to their towns, and took a little bit of that with them. And or a little bit of that experience, but like, it's a wild story about just Americanized, the idea that Jesus became an Americanized concept.
I definitely need to look into that.
Yeah. Well, Jesus is white, and I have proof. This was him in court recently with.
Oh,
I mean, that's scary.
Paul is showing a picture of Trump in the courtroom with a white, which Trump shared that on he didn't paint it, but someone posted it and was like, this is proof that, like, he didn't go anywhere alone or something. And then Trump retweeted it. Oh, stupid. Anyway, Matthew.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about your story, because you have, outside of your brilliant children's books that you write, have a really sad, beautiful kind of journey which I think is beautiful now, maybe not, sad moments. But tell me a little bit about your journey, because you are now openly a gay Christian, which I'm sure the Christians love.
They really well, they really do, April. Here I came out in 2020. Jessica, my ex-wife, still best friend, we made our announcement in the summer of 2020 that we were getting divorced, and that because I was gay. And we of course we told this much of just the story of all the things that just led up to that. For a year we had been in turmoil, just from a relationship standpoint, from in and out of counseling. And I never thought in a million years that I would ever be out. I knew that I wasn't straight. I don't know that, there's a lot of things that there was a point in my life when I knew that I wasn't straight. I didn't have the language to say I was gay, or the language to I didn't have the wherewithal to do that, the freedom to say that. And certainly, when Jessica and I started counseling, basically we started counseling at the same time Rachel went into the hospital. And I remember our second marriage counseling was me just bawling about Rachel's passing. And the other aspect of that, because Rachel was friends to everyone in our circle, especially my circle, I felt like I could not talk about what I was going through, because we were all in such a state of grief. And so and I probably at the time wasn't ready to talk about any of that yet, but it was a very lonely time of walking through, my orientation, the breaking up, or the fact that our marriage was falling apart. And I told Jessica I was gay in September 2019. And I had told her that I was bi probably. I think we sat with that term for 2-3 months. And so it took us 9 months to get to a place where we knew in September what we had to do, but we just couldn't do it. We just couldn't get to a place of because it wasn't I mean, when you're making a choice, you're gonna hurt your kids, you're gonna hurt your family, you're gonna hurt the person that you love. It was just a really overwhelming thing. But we would get, I would kind of rally and say, maybe we can just do this, maybe we can just have a mixed orientation experience, and it would be it would work 6 weeks, and we went through that cycle over and over and over again. And just I guess the pandemic, we start, and we were in the house together all the time, and Jessica was out walking one time, and Jessica tells this story where she would sometimes lay in bed, and I was already asleep, and she just pray to God, bring him back, and hurts my heart. Still. And so Jessica was out walking one day, and she noticed that there was a house for rent about half a mile away from where we were living. And she was like, you need to call right now, get on the phone, you're living in that house. And literally that became that house, the house that I'm in right now, like that, it became like the catalyst for us to be able to do the really hard thing. Like it's so as weird as that sounds, just to find a house. And so that was June. I moved in this house in June 2020. And it's been almost 4 years, and it the bad part of it, I lost my family, lost a relationship with my family, my mom and dad, my 3 sisters and their family. My dad hasn't talked to me in 3.5, almost 4 years, hasn't spoken a word. He sent me a text, but it was a response.
Is it because you are gay?
He's embarrassed that I'm gay.
Which I know you've done the work.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But you have no one should be embarrassed.
But that's but that was the thing that kept me in the closet.
Yeah.
That was the thing, like that disappointing my dad. Like I was raised Baptist, I was raised in a small town. Like, I knew I was never going to make my dad proud. Although when my book showed up in Walmart, one of my books showed up in Walmart, that made him proud. Okay. But for the most part, it was not going to be a thing where I was going to make him proud. But for him to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do the work, and still do the work.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I knew Jessica was like, no, she was from the mindset that no one is going to let go of their kid. Like eventually you're going to come around, but they don't know how. They don't know how. They don't know how to come around. Like they don't know how to interact with me as a gay man.
Because in their mind, I'm assuming they're probably still very conservative in their theology.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in their mind, they can't have a organic, authentic relationship with you without having an ulterior motive of being concerned for your soul and salvation.
Absolutely. And they honestly, there was a part of them that thought that everything in my life would just fall apart. That I would lose my career, that I would lose there was. So when Jessica and I were approached by people, we did we were a part of the family issue of People magazine the following summer after we made our announcement. And so when that came out, that was it was like salt in a wound that they did not like. And so that sort of instigated this, and then there was this other media that came along. And so everything, it just sort of deteriorated any chance that we had for reconciliation and I honestly, it's but like every kid, I mean, I hold on to hope because I sent them a copy of my book, and I haven't heard anything, but that's fine. But I know, it's weird to do work with the idea that you're anticipating someone's death, or you're anticipating getting a phone call that you're going to lose the ability for there to be reconciliation or any kind of thing. But you know what, and the hardest part is my parents are very old, number one. But my whole family, they see me as the enemy. They see me as having created an environment that is not conducive to healing to happen. Yeah. So and so it's just it's a different way of thinking completely that I don't, in many ways, I don't feel safe going home.
Yeah. Well, and your life and the success that you have is such, they have to hold so much cognitive dissonance to accept the fact that you're gay and that you're successful, because we're taught the wages of sin is death. And if you believe that homosexuality is like not just a sin, but like I was taught it was like the worst thing you could possibly do. Yeah, like one of the, for whatever reason, they really hone in on that one. But like Beecher says in the chat, like they're okay with queer people as long as you're struggling, and sad and miserable, because that goes along with their narrative and their worldview, and they could be around you and not have to look their worldview in the face and think and realize it doesn't make sense.
Well, and it's that horrible. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what? When I first told them, I told my family, my parents, like I would say 5 weeks prior to going public. And prior to going public, I just let them know. I just wanted you all to know that Jessica and I are making our announcement public. That was that was a big turning point. Like they freaked out that we were going to, why in the world do you want anyone to know you're gay, Matthew? That kind of stuff. And so like, it's just, and I told them one time, I was like, I said, I came out and I certainly got a whole bunch of hate, and I certainly got a whole bunch of love. And I had people come out of my story from 40 years ago and people coming out of my story 20 years ago and like just being very congratulatory, like very supportive. I said, but you know what wasn't there? My family. My family was the void, was the absence. I got all the other things and you didn't show up. And they just could not fathom that I would see it that way. And that's, I've had to do the work, and I know that it's not okay, but I'm okay with, I'm okay, like I have to be okay. Right. It's,
and they probably don't understand that, like, I'm sure for your well-being, you could no longer be in a straight relationship.
Absolutely. And honestly, they didn't know, they didn't realize to the point where it was like my kids, the other thing that Jessica has said, I've heard her say to people when she's being interviewed about our story, she'll say, I lost my husband, but I got my friend back. So like, that's just like I came back to life. And so my kids got to see their whole dad. Fatherhood was the one thing that was sort of like brought me out of the funk. But like, I think what's sad is like my family's missing like the best part of who I am, because all the things that they love were birthed out of the things that the queer side of me. Like, I mean, all like the fact that I was like, I love to sing and I love to like, be like animated, and I and loved to cook and hung out with my grandmother. My grandmother taught me all these things that I just loved hanging, and all those things that I became really good at. I mean, certainly there are non-queer people that experience all that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know from myself that it's certainly a part of my, it's part of my queer story.
Well, and it's probably something that kept you from being able to fully embrace those things. And isn't it crazy that pro-life religion, and people always ask me, like, why do you hate Christianity? I'm like, why? I just hate anything that steals identity from people and steals full life, which was Jesus' promise. I've come to bring life to the full. And it's like I say, if you were a drug addict, I assume your parents would probably rally to you, but this makes them have to cut off relationship. And it's tragic, and it's tragic for them. Like you say, it's tragic for you and you had to do the work, but horrible for them as well.
But it's also the thing that because I was in it, because I grew up in their thinking. I mean, I went to a church. I mean, I went to a church as a kid that burned Barbies to explain hell. Like I went, like my church was wild. Okay.
I'm sure they talked about homosexuality.
Oh, like my dad would say the word homosexual like it literally was like eating ipecac, like like where it like it would leave a bad taste in his like mouth. He could hardly get it out. So like I grew up in this just really crazy environment of just conservatism, and then I also went to the Christian school that was associated with the church. So I had 14 years of life where we were separated. We were very much separated from the rest of the world. We were, the only time we stood out was when we were standing out because of Jesus or because of our Christianity. And so we weren't given tools. I was not taught how to disagree with people. I was not taught how to have a debate with somebody without being an asshole. Like I was not, like we aren't. So I had to learn, like that was all like things that I had to learn, trial and error. Lord knows the people that I knew in my early 20s, there was a lot of grace because I didn't know how to function. I was paranoid and so like it just there's a part of me that is, I know what they think about me. And so because I was raised in that, and I know that if that's how they think about me, it's such a wide gap for them to cross over. Yeah. Like, even though I'm their brother and I'm their son, I'm their uncle, like they have to jump way over because they like over this wide canyon of belief. In order to humanize me again.
Sorry, I was gonna say, how old were you when you first recognized that you were attracted to men?
18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you terrified by that discovery?
No, it was like it felt like a curse. I carried it like a curse. Like I carried it like a and I was a very late bloomer. I was in a small town Christian school. I was called the F word and all the time. I remember like I was like if you were to see me as a high school senior, you would be like, oh my gosh, you look like you're about 13. Like it was tragic in a lot of ways. So there was that element, but I was also not very masculine, not like everything that I did that was not perceived the way it's supposed to be perceived. I was picked apart. Like my dad, like he thought he was teaching me how to be a man. And so there would be things that he would like point out, like, this is how you Matt, you don't sit like that. You don't sit, that's not how you sit. Matt, when you're going to go up on that stage and sing in front of the church, don't wiggle your head around when you're like hitting a note. I mean, you hold on to that mic. I remember specific conversations about that being just ingrained in my head. And so, it's it is what it is. It's just one of those things. And it's like, I don't want to sit and wallow in all of that now. I know that I have hope that, my family would come around at some point. But honestly, it's such the canyon is so big even for them to I don't know if they could come far enough or close enough to have a close relationship with me.
Has anyone on your side of the family reached out or wanted to have a conversation or try at all?
I have a cousin who is just lovely.
Okay.
But no, my sisters are worse. They're actually more violent than my
my
mom and dad. My dad hasn't spoken to me, so
I'm so sorry.
so it's like
they have spoken to you and not lovingly.
Well, it's so funny. The last time I had a conversation with my mom was 3 days after Mother's Day, when she referred to me. It's all about sex with you people, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Not only did I got you people. Like my mom you peopled me.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
I mean, it's just like this is wild. And so but you guys, like I have done the work. I did a 6-day retreat where I did like a lot of group work, where I was away from social media, and I got real comfortable with my inner child. But my goal in that was to give back the shame that my dad had given to me. And so I like went through exercises of like literally having someone sit in and as my dad.
Wow.
And I gave back as much shame as I could remember. And the physical act of doing that, like I know it's like you have to be in it and you have to be like ready for it, but like the physical act of doing that, like it's weird as it was for me in the beginning, it was really affecting and really powerful. And like I just was able to kind of let go some of that. Like can I still tear up over it? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, even they're still the people I lived with for a really long time and believed that they loved me unconditionally for a while.
Was there a point where you knew you had to take care of yourself? You know, we have this teaching in Christianity, joy is Jesus, others you, you know, and we're taught others first. And as a trauma survivor, I knew I always had to take everybody else's pain on myself. And so to make others uncomfortable is like, I can't do it. I'm just not allowed to do it. So was there a point where you're like, oh, I know stepping out is going to make my wife uncomfortable, my family uncomfortable, my kids uncomfortable, but I have to do it because it's the right thing to do?
I'll be honest with you. When Jessica and I knew we were going to separate, Jessica she was like, if we're going to do this, she goes, I would like for you to come out. And she said, number one, she goes, I want to be honest with my people. I don't want to keep your secret. Like, I want to be able to talk about our story, in a truthful manner. And she was like, and you know that if you don't come out now to your parents and to your family, you never will. And so there was even though I had long become somebody who was affirming for everybody else, I voted against the marriage amendment in Tennessee back in 2006. Like, I mean, it was like, I was like me and 18 people. Okay. Like, it was like, I've long been an active supporter of LGBTQ people. When I wrote my very first children's book, there's a line in When God Made You that said, so be you, fully you, a show-stopping review, live your life in full color, every tint, every hue, discover, explore, have faith, but love more, and learn and relearn all that God made you for. But when I said, like, live your life in full color, I prayed that every gay kid in church would read that and just be okay. Like, know that their story's okay. And so I'm trying to think where was I going with that?
But it's beautiful wherever you're going with it.
So it just so when Jessica asked me that question, I mean, I panicked because she was right. Like the thought of coming out, like, had not even, like, I knew we were separating, but like I just was like the idea of doing this in a public, like I panicked.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't so much the public part of it. It was I have to tell my mom and dad part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you know, it took me a day, but I was like, I owe that to you. I owe that to you. Like, I want you to be able to tell your story. And so like and she was right. Like, I mean, Jessica, like, so Jessica, like she helped me come out in a lot of ways. Like, she really is. The one thing that I can say about Jessica, like, she was broken by our marriage falling apart. Like, she's broken. But not one time did she ever shame me for being gay. Like, she never one time used that as this weapon. It never has. And so it's she was right. And so without her, you just said, was there a moment? It wasn't my moment. It was just God or the universe used her in my story to allow me the courage to do what we both knew I needed to do.
Good for her.
I think you and your family, you have such a beautiful family. And I just think that y'all's love for, like, you can see that y'all still have such respect and love for each other. And that's a really beautiful and encouraging thing. And it's just a testament too, that it doesn't have to be this, you know, end all to a relationship that.
Well, you can lead with love. No, you know, but Jessica will often say, she'll say, if you're going to have an ex-husband, him being gay is a really good reason for us to have it, you know. And so, like, there is, I never want to project what we have and the relationship that we have onto other people's, like, divorce stories, because so many have such painful, like, awful stories. But, you know, Jessica and I we just made a point that we're gonna, like, put our kids first, and we're gonna lead with love. And like, not one, you know, our story gets told in, like, media little blurbs and whatever, and like, and it sounds like, in some cases, like, for me, it almost sometimes it comes off far-fetched or whatever, but like, it is exactly the way, like, I've talked to her. She's in the middle of the ocean on a cruise right now with my kids. And like, we've talked to each other 3 or 4 times today. Like, I mean, you know, so we are, she's my best friend.
You know, I have a question I want to ask that I don't know if I have the right to ask. So tell me to shut up if it's not a good question. Why did you decide to get divorced, I guess, is the question. And because I'm looking at this in a lot of ways, you know, in life, that can marriage be different where it doesn't have to be a divorce, but was it to give you guys space? Was it to let you pursue other relationships?
Well, it was, we explored, like, you know, when we were in counseling, when we finally got to the orientation part of my story, we explored all of the various things that were, like, options for us. I was really, really unhappy to a point where it just, the life was sucked from me. And so I was like, Jessica, like it was, and it's certainly, me being gay was not the only issue we had. Like, it just sort of, that was the thing that was sort of like the catalyst for all the other things that we would struggle with in our relationship. You know, like sorry, I was getting ready to say something I really can't say.
So yes,
No,
it's a
so
super,
like
super personal question.
no. It's not. It's not that it's not that's personal. I'm just saying, I think we both just had to come to the conclusion that that was what was right for us. I think that you know, like we just to explore the idea, like we explored all the various things that we could do, and it just none of the other options or none of the other ideas that our counselor talked to us about felt like they didn't feel right for us. Now, certainly, I don't like to speak on. Jessica might give you a different answer, but like I think that would be the same answer.
I think that's a really fair answer. And I wanted to ask that because I think we need to look at this because divorce can be such a terrible thing. So really to have, well, let's not get divorced as an option on the table, which Christianity doesn't give us. So that was the point of my question.
You know, and it's
Thank you for that great answer.
Oh, I mean, and I think that there are, like, what's great is that there are other options for people to do. And, you know, the thing that our counselor kept telling us, is guess what, guys, you get to write this, you get to do this story. You can make choices that are right for you and your situation. And it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, you know, like we still have Christmas. Like I will go over to her house and we'll invite all of our old friends over and I'll make the dinner like I always did. Like, I mean, it's, you know, and I clean up and I go back to my house. Like, and we're really content with that. Like, I mean, that seems, we have become really good at co-parenting this. There are certainly moments that we'll walk through that we're like, man, it's hard to do this alone. But for the most part, we know we have never looked back and thought, I wish we hadn't made that choice.
Well, you are a beautiful person, and I really do believe that you have helped countless of kids from your books feel less alone. And I would have given anything for my brother. I have one brother who is also gay. And some of the story that you shared of what your dad had said to you is very similar to things that I have seen my dad say to my brother. And he realized he was gay when he was in middle school and just cried himself to sleep and begged God to make him straight pretty much until he came out to me when he was 26. Fortunately for him, like it was like an instant change for me when he bawled in my face and cried. But I would have given anything for him to have a book like yours when he was a kid, to know that he could just be who he is and not have to try to measure up and be some kind of perfect alpha male Christian straight man, that he could just be who God made him to be instead.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean,
our wonderful helper and friend Jenny says you have a book signing coming up.
I do in Nashville here at Parnassus Books. I am on Saturday. I am doing a book signing with Tyler Merritt and my friend Marianne Richmond. Well, both Tyler and Marianne are my friends, and we're doing a reading, and then we're gonna do a book signing. So yeah,
awesome.
I'm also doing a reading at Glendale United Methodist Church. You know, the people with the signs, they do a lot of like LGBTQ friendly signs on their church. Like it's like,
yes, Glendale. I've seen those. Yeah.
So I'm doing a book reading at their church on Palm Sunday too. So
is that also in Nashville?
Yeah, it is in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah. So
awesome. Well, everyone should go out and get your book. Can you tell us where they can get it?
You can get this anywhere. It will you can get it any store online. A lot of independent bookstores have it. Amazon. It'll be in Target weirdly the day after Easter. I don't know why, but it will be the day after Easter. It will be in Target. So
nice.
And tell us where everyone can find you.
It's pretty much Matthew Paul Turner across the board.
Lovely. On all the things. Okay. So we've been going for an hour now. Do we want to take 5 minutes and do our?
I don't. It's up to you.
I think we should. I think we should.
Okay, end on a slightly lighter. I mean, it's scary in other ways, but slightly lighter.
I mean, it's going to be terrible, but that's okay. Go ahead.
So, for those of you, if you've been sleeping under a rock, the State of the Union was this past Thursday, so about a week ago, and the Republican response was by Senator Katie Britt. I'm sure you have to have seen it. SNL's Cold Open had Scarlett Johansson being Katie Britt. There's lots of parodies about her going on. I did one, shameless plug. So we're going to play a little bit of that. And then think about it for those of you in the chat. We're going to do something fun, and we're going to each try to give our best Katie Britt State of the Union response, because her voices do change. We're going to do our best Katie Britt State of the Union impersonation about whatever random topic or conversation you throw into the chat. So
improv. We need improv.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. So you want to go ahead? Do you have the clip ready to go?
I can talk amongst yourselves.
So daylight savings. Just kidding.
All right, here we go.
About their future and the future of children in every corner of our nation. And that's why I invited you into our home tonight. Like so many families across America, my husband Wesley and I just watched President Biden's State of the Union address from our living room. And what we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive. One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off. Our communities are less safe, and our country is less secure.
So something like that.
Lysol.
I just feel, I don't know. I just feel like she has this, everything is so clean. Mm-hmm. And like, it's like she mixes in this ASMR. And then also, what is that thing that she does with the voice? Like, what is that called?
They call it like fundy.
The fry. The vocal fry. But like that vocal fry, like where she's just like where
it sounds like you have obviously a biscuit caught in your throat. Yeah.
And then did you guys see the clip that she shared on social media prior to going?
Oh yeah, her voice was totally different.
Like totally just as bright. I mean, yeah.
Well, and she also has that like the exact same rhythm that youth pastors or just any preacher has, like when they're giving an altar call.
It is an altar call.
Where it's just like, and then Joe Biden? You want Joe Biden? The like whisper shame at the end.
Where there's just a little bit of tears at the end. Like,
yeah.
I mean, she just
on the verge of tears.
It's like where she's just like, wants to pull you in. And it's like, yeah, it's very altar call. That is very observant.
And also,
I mean, it's what it felt like to me. It's like, am I about to get saved?
The other creepy senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, said she did exactly what we asked her to do. You know, and so you could just like she was told to act that way. She was
in a kitchen.
Yeah. When SNL said, because we love kitchen. It's like it's just like when they just called it like they just used kitchen. Oh my god, that was so great.
Okay, we've got some options. Let's do some impressions. Okay, who would like to take? We've got doTERRA, which is essential oil. We've got selling Tupperware. We've got
having to drive a Ford when you're a Chevy person.
Yeah, I feel like
Kate Middleton missing from public
vibrators.
Vibrators.
Be right back. No.
Okay. Anyone see anything that tickles their fancy?
This is it's funny. Yeah. I've been go ahead. I want you to
I'll do like the smelly kids one, I guess.
Okay. Do it.
Okay. Now wait, how do I channel? So I'm in my office to show that I'm a real person. And some of you may be suffering under the administration of Joe Biden in America because kids are smelling. I spoke to a woman the other day who told me a story, a terrible story about how bad her kids smelled. And Joe Biden, it's disgusting. Disgusting. While trying to smile. Disgusting. Anyway, that's the best I can do.
Nice.
Yeah. America. Where did we start saying America?
I don't know, but I'm gonna do the giant sandworms in Dune. Have y'all seen that movie?
Go.
I have not.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Well, there's giant sandworms, okay, and a bunch of sand.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm coming to you tonight from the caves of Dune. And it's getting really scary out there because I know that the sandworms are coming. You can't walk outside this cave without the sandworm. This is our country. But there's hope. If I just submit to my husband, my cave husband, he will carry me over the sand. Okay, that's my take.
I am seriously scared of you right now. I'm seriously afraid.
Like, can I just you are so gifted. Like you are truly talented. Like your ability to do impressions, but then also just be funny and like I like you really are talented. Like in a it's just like you're really good at what you do and you're very consistent.
Well,
and
thank you.
Please don't make me do it. Please don't make me do the impression.
You gotta try. What do you want to do? You can
I'm
choose.
gonna do my book.
Do your book. Read a passage from your book as Katie Britt.
You belong. You do. That's always been true. You belong to yourself since you were tiny and new. On your very first day, when you breathed on your own, you belong to yourself and were made to be known.
Oh my gosh.
That's it.
Okay, Matthew, you sold yourself short because that was actually really
good. You could have finished with the I see you.
Oh, I know. Like I
hear you.
I feel like she got like crazy eyes. Like I see you.
Like she really did. But like I just love like the SNL thing. Like what I loved about like that, it was so layered. Like the humor in it, because like the fact that they mixed in that when they said because America is hell, and like they mixed in this like ASMR thing going on, and then they mixed in the over dramatic story about the woman that was like not true. Like it was so well written satire.
It was great.
It's so good, and her delivery. My God, that was good.
I saw someone tweet this that no one has anticipated an SNL cold open more than like when Tina Fey was Sarah Palin.
Right. Like I honestly, that was I don't know if I expected her to do it, but I certainly knew that was going to have to be the cold open.
Well, and my biggest problem with the SNL skit is that the speech itself was a parody of itself, and it was hard to do it. But yes, I love Scarlett Johansson saying, Joe Biden was performing, but I'm not. I'm not.
I know.
And then when she was like, and I'm the craziest bitch at Target in the Target parking lot. I mean, it's so great.
Oh my gosh. Beecher says, Matthew, that you should, when you do your reading, you should read it like Katie Britt.
Oh. Okay, I will do that. I will do that.
It's gonna be a special.
And I've heard some people, so there is a part of me that wants to feel sorry for her because this is what Donald Trump makes people and particularly women do. But it's not just women, because he makes Tim Scott make a total fool out of himself all the time and totally denigrate himself. And so in some ways I feel sorry for her because this is what republicanism has become. But then she fully lied, not misled, she lied about the human trafficking story. And she clearly was saying this is Joe Biden's fault that this tragic story happened to this woman, and then doubled down on Fox News the next morning saying she didn't lie. So I felt sorry for her for a little bit, but now,
well, then she released her statement, and her statement was like unapologetic. I mean,
she's kind of framing it like she's being persecuted
like that's
standing for truth. I'm like, Republicans thought it was bad, honey.
I mean, and using it, but using it to fundraise. Like that's what it becomes. Like this, please, take care of me because I am being, torn apart by the media. It's like everyone becomes, the persecutor.
Oppressed. Yeah. And they made the good joke about it in Saturday Night Live that this story is completely true except for the location, the time, and who was president. But again, she said, Joe Biden, this woman got molested because of you. She didn't say that outright, but it's what she was saying. And it was something that happened tragically in 2004 to 2008. The cartels had nothing to do with it, and it was nowhere near the border. It was 500 miles away in Mexico, Guadalajara, and so it was a full out lie. And so I can't feel sorry for her.
Just to use somebody's that tragic story, like that. I mean, just awful.
Which is tragic, no matter where that happens. There's a time and a place, and she went into like graphic, graphic detail.
I mean, like it was just a whole lot. But to use somebody else's story that was given to you, like as in a circle, a round table discussion, I don't know. It just was.
The woman who is an activist now was on CNN telling her story, and she said she never talked to Katie Britt. They were on a panel together, but she never talked to her. And Katie Britt, Joe Biden, I sat down at the border with a woman. And it's total bullshit. It's a total lie.
I would be so mad if that were my story and I saw it being exploited for political gain by someone I didn't talk to. That would be infuriating. Beecher and I were talking too, and just something that we've also noticed in the last since Trump took over the Republican Party is that these State of the Union responses, they're all talking points. It's a lot of fluff. There's no actual policies in there, because even the border stuff, Biden had a package ready to go that Republicans poo-pooed on because Trump basically said, don't do it because we want to use the border against Biden. So it's just talking points at this point because Trump's completely usurped the party and has got rid of all of the policy.
Yeah.
I heard a fun conspiracy theory about this today.
A fun one?
Yes. That Katie Britt is, she was one of the top in line to be VP for Donald Trump. And some are saying, well, maybe she intentionally botched this speech because being VP for Donald Trump means your career is over. You're a horrible person for the rest of your life. And you could get hung at some point by Christian people. So maybe she intentionally took herself out of the running with this horrible
But she could just say no.
Yeah.
It feels like a very roundabout way to do that because she just ruined her career a different way.
In a completely different way. It was a weird talk because I think that she's obviously outside of her terrible belief systems. She has I feel like she could have delivered something that would have been professional and at least okay from a Republican standpoint. It was a weird tone, weird thing. It just like she turned into something.
It kind of felt like I was getting in trouble by a youth leader at church. Like, come on, come sit in mommy's lap.
Right.
We've got to have a discussion.
And it's that, I mean,
that's really, you're
yeah,
really
you're
good
so
at
good
this.
at
You're good at this.
And that weird nose breathe in she did was really creepy. But the question is her career over, or is this what it is to be a Republican now in America?
She holds a position in Alabama.
Yeah.
They just made,
frozen embryos.
Yeah.
And is it just me, or did they try to make her look like weirdly sexy with a cross kind of in the shirt?
I didn't find the cross sexy, but I did think that was intentional product placement.
Oh, every bit of that was intentional. And even the fact that
I'm not saying the cross was necessarily sexy, but just I thought they made her look, a male doing the response would have had a suit and tie on.
But you notice though, Paul, they have thrown women into that ring to do the responses a whole bunch over the last, like it's almost like it's a thing where they know they're not going to win, so to me it's a little bit misogynistic in the sense of how they're doing it, because like it's like they know they're throwing somebody under the bus. Let's have a woman do it.
The party overturned Roe v. Wade and are actively taking away women's rights. Like, not even just about abortion, but anything reproductive is being taken away. So they have to they're just trying to be like, look, we're pro-women. We're pro-women. Look at these women. It's a sexist version of tokenism. Yeah.
Well, and the IVF thing in Alabama, and to say, basically, no, this is how God wants it, in a court decision, in a Supreme Court decision in Alabama, they're saying because God says this is the law.
One of the judges on the Alabama Supreme Court is like a proponent of the 7 Mountain Mandate.
Yeah.
Which honestly, we should talk about that. We should do a show on that because we haven't really talked about it. But
as is the leader of the House, a 7 Mountains Mandate proponent as well.
Matthew Paul Turner. You are a lovely person.
Thank you for letting me crash your show. Like, I had so much fun.
I'm so glad that you joined us. I will put a link to buy your book and some of how people can find you in the show notes. So everyone go buy Matthew's newest book, You Will Always Belong, and go follow him on all the socials because he also is funny. You post some funny videos as well.
Once in a while.
And also thank you for sharing your story in such a tender-hearted way. And that is a story that can really help people. And so I just am so grateful that you're sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
All right, everyone. We will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place. And we hope you'll have a great week.
Night all.
Bye.